Simpsons Index, an online spreadsheet that is also a podcast. This is the podcast.
Coming to you from SideQuest Studios, this is the Simpsons Index, episode 205. Hello out there, I'm your host, Elliot Jay O'Neill, and joining me here as always, except when he's not, is BT Calloway.
Hoi hoi.
And all the way from lockdown in Sydney is Rose Piper.
Hello.
And Béa Barbeau-Scurla.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us for the Simpsons Index. Of course, this is the podcast where we watch and review 3 episodes of The Simpsons at a time, but there is a twist. Each episode must come from a different decade. Now, Rose and Bea, thank you for joining us on the show once again.
Oh, thank you for having me. Third time's the charm.
And yeah, second for B. I'm actually curious, you know, in the midst of our big Sydney lockdown, a lot of people returning to a lot of familiar comfort TV. Has The Simpsons come up again in the last couple of months?
It's come up for me in the last couple of weeks because, like, my girlfriend enjoys it, but, like, isn't a fan to the scale that I am. But she has recently decided that should be some dumb, like, turn your brain off TV that we watch. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we've started watching that, which is why I was recently thinking, I'd like to do that show again.
Yeah, I've been rewatching Arrested Development and Futurama mainly, so
Nice.
those comforts, because I
Simpsons
kind of,
adjacent.
yeah, Simpsons adjacent, because I actually think I rewatched a lot of The Simpsons last lockdown when Rose gave me her Disney Plus password. So I was like, it's been too recent, you know, it's still fresh in my mind, but Futurama's been really fun to watch as well.
I actually did a big Futurama binge the other day on a very brutal hangover. It was very comforting.
It's so good.
It
Have you
is.
heard about the people who fall asleep to Futurama?
No?
There's like
Me?
this whole like
It's a cult,
yeah, it's like this whole underground sort of community. There's like heaps of people who like fall asleep to different shows, but apparently Futurama has the biggest community. Like for some reason there's something about the rhythm and the sounds of like a Futurama episode that a lot of people find really soothing to fall asleep to.
That's what you
Isn't
want
that
to hear as a
interesting?
creator of a TV show, is the most people
Yeah.
fall asleep to it.
Well, you would think the theme song would wake people up. That's a lot
Yeah,
of clanging
definitely.
sounds like an alarm, but
Yeah.
okay.
And there's
Yeah.
a lot of yelling as well, but I think like when you're in the rhythm of it, it can, because it's so rhythmic and well timed, it's sort of like a rocking boat or something.
Yeah, I would have thought the sci-fi scenes, like all the spaceship battles and stuff, would be enough to jerk you awake. But yeah, the theme song as well, because like for me, the longest time, The Office was that show for me.
Oh, okay.
But then
yeah.
I would constantly get woken up by da 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 da
Oh,
da
yeah.
da. Yeah. Anyway,
God.
Very
the-
lively.
The noise in, like, my girlfriend's apartment block, like, is so bad. Like, you can hear everything in other apartments
really?
or whatever. Like, it sounds like the people above them are walking around with concrete shoes. But I reckon every single day of lockdown, one of them has just got The Office going. You just hear the theme song start. I'm like, you must have watched this show the whole way through like 3 times by now.
Yeah.
and that's what my neighbors say when they hear da 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 da. Well, yeah, I mean, getting into it, I think we can only avoid it for so long. But yeah, I just made everybody watch Season 31, Episode 6, Marge the Lumberjill. First released in November of 2019, it was directed by Rob Oliver, written by Ryan Coe. In this episode, Marge gets into competitive timber sports and meets a girl who helps her through it, and Homer gets mad jealous of them. Hey, what did we think?
I think if I needed more Marge is a lesbian bait, they did catch me on that. They did absolutely put the cheese in the trap, and I'm there. I'm a little mouse wriggling around, because I've never wanted Marge to leave Homer more than in that episode. You know what I mean?
I agree. Like, I think, like, I also, like, once the sort of lesbian tension was introduced, I was like, I'm listening. But as a fellow lesbian myself, but I think I'm always, like, sympathetic to, at least in the early episodes, like, I'm sympathetic to Homer, like, fucking up and want them to stay together. But this one, I was like, nah, leave him. Go live in the lesbian
Yeah,
couple.
I was like, you're having a beautiful life. Like, she's so happy. You can see, it's like, I'm like, wow, you just have like joy in your eyes again, Marge. Like, leave him, move to Portland. You'll be happier there.
I was also like really caught just by the whole premise of it with timber sports, because like years ago I would just like find myself up late, just kind of like flicking through channels on Foxtel when I was like living at home, and came across like it would always be on at like 1 a.m. or something, and it was like still timber sports, and I fucking loved it. I would eat that shit up. It's so entertaining.
Yeah, they get all the way up those beams and just sticking in the planks, and it's like, how do you even?
It's insane, and they're huge too. So.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I didn't even know this was a thing. The thing I was
Have you
showing in
never
the
been
episode.
to an Easter show, Elliot Jay O'Neill? Australian.
That's true.
What the fuck?
Too busy checking out all the cattle.
Look, Matt.
My two favourite parts of the Easter show were, one, obviously the little ducks going down the slide,
of course.
but two, the wood chopping. Like it was amazing, and it was good to see them like in this episode have the thing where you like put the plank into the thing and like climb up it. Like, I always thought that was so impressive. As a sidebar as well, just one of my favourite like, I guess like toxic masculinity things of like, oh, I'm so tough, I've ever heard was, you familiar with former Australian cricketer David Boone?
Oh yeah,
Vaguely.
big mustache.
Yeah, so Booney set the record, at least amongst like cricketers, for the most beers drunk on the flight between Sydney and Melbourne, which was 52 beers, which is a pretty phenomenal effort.
shit.
We
But
talking throwdowns or like?
the regular beers, apparently. Apparently he was absolutely paralytic and had to be like carried off
Sydney
the...
to Melbourne, like 2 hours?
No, Sydney to
God.
London, sorry, I meant to say.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God. I thought, I was
Slightly.
like, how does that
Which is
happened?
still a mammoth effort.
Yeah, but a bit like, more believable than Sydney to Melbourne.
Yeah, that's
but
24 hours.
The reason I
Yeah,
say
that's-
this...
That's
The reason
alcoholism.
The reason I say this is former champion Australian woodchopper David Foster once said David Boone is like champion for drinking 52 beers between Sydney and London, but I could do it between Sydney and Melbourne. And you look at him and you're like, fuck, maybe he could.
Yeah.
He's an absolute mountain of a man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's been one of my weird fucking lockdown YouTube trends is watching like competitive eaters and just, the people that, work out like these fucking timber sports people and then just are able to down like a Macca's meal fit for 8 is just, it's disgusting. Why am I bringing it up?
Because disgust must be shared.
Yeah.
BT, what do you think of this episode?
Man, again, I feel underqualified to fully comment on it entirely. I will say that I just never really knew where the show wanted me to land on Homer. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
for a long time, like, are we supposed to be sympathetic to him? Because a lot of this is in his head, and I do like that approach that Marge isn't actually leaving him. She's just got a new passion, but he doesn't get that. But they never quite get there, and it kind of is a big detriment to me because I like that as an angle. Like, he's just so needy or again, a little bit golden retriever-ish. You leave the home, the dog thinks you're gone forever. And that's, to him, her having an interest outside of Springfield is the end. And I like that as an idea, but it just doesn't come together, unfortunately.
I think as well on that point, like, I feel that they didn't really explore the kind of dynamic. It felt like, and again, I feel like this is something that season 30 onwards and all of that stuff, like anything in the, I think, what is it, time period, the 2010s that we're doing? Well, now it's like 2020.
The Disney era.
Yeah, like, it just feels like they're like, okay, so Lisa has a play, and then Marge thinks she's boring, and then, how do we resolve that? Kind of thing. Like, rather than being like, Marge and Homer are having an issue, and that causes Marge to do this, which causes Homer to do this. There's, like, no real sense of, like, cause and effect. And even that reveal at the end of the woman who was helping her out being like, no, I have a wife and kids. Like, there's never any kind of, like, introspection on, like, Homer being like, oh, well, why did I think that there was like almost no lesson, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, totally. There was just,
It made it hollow.
Yeah, it was just, I felt, the serious lack of conflict in it all and just weird pacing when, what the episode was trying to zero in on. And I think it was pretty reflected in Lisa's play, which also didn't feel like it had a point. It was just a bunch of meandering, bunch of nonsense. I mean, it was written by an 8-year-old, but come on.
But
also an 8-year-old who's like a super genius.
Yeah, and we have this expectation, I think, with Lisa, is that she kind of does almost grow. Like, she does become almost smarter, even though she doesn't age. And, like, I think having her put on a play like that was just like, what the hell? Why does this matter? Like, this Lisa putting on a play that she wrote about her family should be an episode altogether, because that's a thing, you know, like...
I literally wrote down, Lisa's play sucks, is this going to be the point?
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, let's not gloss over that fucking awful Masked Singer reference that was just, like, made me want to tear out my eyes.
That and the YouTube thing before it just felt so lazy. It was just like, this is a thing?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, what's in the news today?
Yeah.
The kids these days with their Twitch and YouTubes and all that. Yeah, it's just... What was another weird thing about the play as well is who was playing Marge in that play? Like,
and why was her voice so good?
Yeah.
Like, she sounded like Marge. Like, why didn't they put, like, what is it, like Lainey or Janie or whatever?
Yeah. Jane Lane. Wait, no, that's a different one.
I was like, what?
Yeah, it's so weird. Hi, Rose's housemate.
That was nice. There was a very excited person in the background.
Yeah, she was galloping through.
I haven't seen a person gallop in ages.
Because they haven't watched a season 31 episode of Simpsons.
Yeah.
So, Rose, how about you? What's a moment from this episode that stood out to you for better or worse?
Oh, the one gag that I actually liked was like Lisa wearing a wig of her own hair.
Yeah.
I wrote that down as well.
That was decent, I think. Like, there were a couple of jokes I thought that were, like, okay. Well, one thing I didn't like was I didn't get the street sign gags of, like, them all being characters. Like, what?
Yeah. Elliot, you want to take this one? Or?
Oh, BT, I've got little to no idea. I've got a guess.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, it's because Groning's from Portland, Oregon.
Oh,
and
right.
he named a lot of the characters after streets.
Oh. Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So it's basically a meta reference to itself.
God, that's
there we go.
so inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like, at least it wasn't as obvious as the other one where Homer was asked in the bar, you know, where are you from? Springfield. And
Yeah.
which one?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's,
Like, I felt like that's like, oh, come on. You're on season, like, 30, what was it, 31 or 32?
31.
Like, I'm like, we know.
They're
like,
normally more subtle with it, though. Like the whole, like, Larry Burns one where it's like, yeah, what state? And then you can't hear him. Like, but this one was just, like, so beaten over the head. Like,
Could have been simpler just to cut away before Homer responds.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, because without that joke, the bar scene is pointless. And
Oh, yeah, that's right. I completely forgot
Oh,
that was even...
100%. Yeah. That's the thing as well that I find consistent with these newer episodes is that the scenes don't have a point. Like, for example, that scene after Marge is chopping wood and then she's just in the ice bath trying to drink the wine.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
she's taking an ice bath and it's cold.
Yeah.
That's
and
the
her
end of the
tits
scene.
are big, I guess. Like, anyone else notice that, or was that just me?
I didn't. But,
I was looking at her tits.
Weirdly, though, like the red wine in the bath thing. Like, have you ever seen the Britannic sketch, like Oscar-winning movie trailer?
Yes.
Yeah, and it just made me think of that, like. Because it felt like something that should have been cut out of the episode of like the guy just in the bath going, this scene doesn't make it into the movie, and then spilling wine on himself.
Oh, I missed that one. But yeah, I like, because that scene happened outside the montage and it could have just been easily part of the montage. One of two montages that this episode gets.
Yeah.
And did you guys happen to catch the artist that was performing the song Lumberjill over that montage?
No, I couldn't figure that one out.
It was Jill Solbuel, who also gets a mention in this episode.
Yeah, true.
Right.
If
I
you
don't know who
is.
that is.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
me
know who that
neither.
was.
she wrote and performed the original I Kissed a Girl, not the Katy Perry one, the 90s one.
All right.
Oh, I know that song.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
Fabio's in the film clip. Am I remembering that right?
I feel like you can't be.
Also,
How
like,
could you kiss a girl with Fabio then? The most beautiful man in the cosmos.
Maybe even the world.
I also did find something very annoying, which was the Portlandia reference, which I
The
totally...
theme song.
Yeah, the theme song.
Feel It
but-
All Around by Washed Out.
All
yeah.
right.
I just found it kind of strange because I was like, you're making this reference in 2019. Portlandia has not been on the air for 3 years at that point or something. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. And it just I'm like, I get it, but it's also they're not doing anything crazy with it. You know, they're not just pushing it as far as they could go.
For modern Simpsons, a 3-year gap is lightning quick.
Yeah.
And that is them on their snappiest.
I thought some of the references, trying to be cool and Portlandy later, were kind of funny. After they did the full basket full of knit beanies, going up to the Janelle Monáe poster and then Tig Notaro.
Yeah, I
thought that was
those
quite funny.
she's a lesbian references were so funny. The framed photo of Clea Duvall, I was like, yes.
That also felt tonally off though, because they're very specific, and I feel like Simpsons is normally more broad.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
completely lost.
Yeah, a bit of reference soup there. But B, what about you? What's a moment from this episode that stands out to you, for better or worse?
Yeah, I guess it was just the ending felt strange. Did something just also fly over the top of my head when Homer pulls out the assisted suicide clinic buzzer?
Yeah, that's like a buzzer for a pub dinner. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what the hell?
But instead of your schnitto, Dr. Kevorkian comes and tells you up.
But did I miss something? That was something really weird that just
That
took
flew
me
over my
further
head
out
too.
of the episode. And I
Yeah.
was like, what the heck is going on with this? Because also it just the stakes didn't feel there. So when Homer tries to talk to her during her lumberjack competition, I'm like, you know what he should be so annoying that she uses her anger to win the competition. And then she divorces him and moves to Portland with that woman. That's just how. And then The Simpsons never make any more seasons after that. That's what I reckon.
How about you, BT? What stood out to you from this episode, for better or worse?
The second they introduced a gay character, I wrote down, if this woman just out of nowhere kisses Marge, I'm going to immediately fail this episode because, of course, she immediately just kisses any woman she can because she's gay.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that. So props.
Yeah.
I was ready.
Also, I wouldn't hate it.
No.
It would get gift for sure, but it was just one of those moments of, okay, we're going here. But look, again, I'm not qualified to speak, but I don't think the character was awful. I think maybe a little cliched, sure, but was never, as we did previously with Three Gays of the Condo, was never
–
horrendous or never.
Yeah, doing the whole trying to seduce the straight person angle.
Yeah.
Also wasn't portrayed as a hideous stereotype of the
No.
Yeah.
humorless bull dyke.
But
Yeah,
I
exactly.
actually think that she was maybe drawn a bit too vague. It just kind of felt like Marge got swept up in it. I kind of would have liked a bit more sort of magic or something to her. That guy who's talking to her about brunch. If they had some sort of moment like that,
Jacques.
then
Look,
yeah,
Jacques is you don't just make a character like Jacques out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I wish they could have just added that. So then the threat of Homer being left for this other woman was a bit more high stakes, because it's oh no, he's just obviously just completely misconstruing the
Yeah.
thing.
I think that's the take they didn't make, is either there is blossoming friendship sparking there and Homer misconstrues it, or it's all completely in his head. And the fact that we never land on either side made it very weird as to what we were actually doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, there wasn't much character to Paula anyway, and it does feel like another one The Simpsons are letting down their big guest star here, which, did you happen to catch who was playing Paula?
No idea.
Meryl Streep.
Nope, it was it was Asia Kate Dillon.
I don't know who that is.
Me
She's
neither.
from Orange is the New Black, and apparently she was in the new John Wick movie as well.
Oh.
New West.
Oh, right. No, I think I know. I believe you may have her wrong pronoun there, buddy.
Yes, I did write down they, them there. So
Yes.
apologies if I fucked that one up. But yeah, just rounding out the guest stars, Natasha Lyonne's returning for a bit part playing Sophie the Clown. I mean, Sophie Krustovsky.
Oh,
Yeah.
Her
right.
last name isn't the Clown. It's not like Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
But how about the wackiness of this episode? Was this a particularly cartoony episode of The Simpsons?
Sort of yes and no.
Yeah. And I just think it's the part where a lot of the whack is just the jokes in passing, nothing that's really related to the plot itself.
Well, yeah, like I mentioned before, it's kind of weird they had 2 montages in this episode, and the other one being to Ace of Spades by Motorhead. Fucking, yeah, throwing up the horns for that one. But also I noticed in terms of like cartoony wackiness, there were like 4 thought bubble gags in this episode.
Yeah.
I was going to say there was so many thought bubble gags. I wrote it down. I was like, Jesus Christ, what is this, Family Guy? Like, it was just, like, so overwhelming. And I also think that, like, even though the jokes were kind of unrelated to the main storyline, there was just, like, some moments that they didn't take things far enough to actually get funny. For example, there's a moment where Bart holds up a book and I had to, like, squint to read what he was holding up. And I was like, why don't you just, like, cut in for that or something? And then, like, you know, when Paula is like saying all those innuendos for the dual cutting log championship, you could have just come up with so many more to just keep rattling off, and then have a moment where like Homer sees that and gets anxious about it. Like, there were just so many little missed opportunities to make moments that they already had really funny.
Yeah, because especially with the 2 montages, it's like, okay, you burnt all of your good wood chopping jokes in quick succession. Yeah, and then you didn't leave anything for the rest of the episode.
Totally.
Yeah. God, I'm just trying to, the various thought bubble gags, because, even there was the super meta one of Bart being like, Lisa's in the thought bubble. Nah.
I didn't mind that. I
Yeah?
didn't love it, but I didn't mind it. I thought when, you know, Paula is all like, oh, I need you to picture someone that makes you mad so you can chop wood better. I thought, okay,
Yeah.
it's going to be Homer's face.
Yeah.
We've done this 1,000 times. But the fact that it was more Marge's life in general and all those frustrations she doesn't get to let out, I thought that was a better direction to go.
Well, I thought the episode should have more been about, like, Marge is worried about being a disappointment in Lisa's eyes. Like,
Yeah.
Ah, that's good. Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, better episode, Swish.
Well, yeah, especially because like the whole thing starts because she cares about what Lisa thinks in her play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how it didn't really follow through. And the resolution doesn't even end with Lisa being like, you know, I'm still proud of you, Mum. It's Grandpa being like, oh, the baby's lost her head.
That was a weird sting.
Yeah, I felt like I agree with that. It would have been better if it was like her worry about like Lisa's opinion of her, because like the conceit of it, I guess, is like a kind of snipe at the things that people will do when people think that they're boring, and it feels like a little more mean-spirited.
Yeah.
Well, on that as well, how was the emotional core of this episode? What did we think of the heart?
Oh, there wasn't a ton of it, really.
Yeah. There are a few good moments. There's a good confrontation when Marge says to Homer, I'm finally good at something, and you're jealous. And it's like, ooh, hello emotions. And yeah, he has to be told to do it, but I do like Homer's line of, instead of saying, okay, you're done, can we go home now, saying, would you like to come home now?
Yeah.
It's a good moment. It makes me wish they'd tied it a little bit more to the actual episode, because I like it as a lesson. It's a simple thing of just asking instead of expecting. Yeah, that was my main notes on the hearts, the thumps, the bumps.
I agree. I feel like they should have just... there's just so much that they could have gone really deeper with, because I think, like, you know, hardcore Simpsons fans and anyone who, like, has grown up with it, you kind of do have this soft spot for Marge, because she's always, like, holding out, doing everything she can for the family, and always being, like, the reliable rock. Yeah. And she has this moment where she realizes that her life is not exciting when, you know, she's dealing with Homer, whose life is only exciting. And I just feel like there's so much kind of emotion that you could have dug through there, but they just didn't really do any of it. It was like a good idea, but then they're like, yeah, let's just slap some jokes on it and call it a day, you know?
Yeah. Well, I even thought that, once Homer got all jealous and petulant and stuff, it's just, in a way, I don't think it went far enough in that direction either for Marge to ever have a blow up. This sort of just felt like a mild tiff.
Yeah.
Or just like even just a misunderstanding that good communication would fix.
Yeah.
That's kind of what bugs me about this one.
Divorcing Homer.
That's the one that definitely bugs me about this one is the pieces are there, they're just not quite together in the right way.
Yeah.
It's close.
But ultimately, did it feel like an episode of The Simpsons? Are the characters behaving like themselves? Are these the people we know and love? Is this a show we know and love?
I think as far as the like very new episodes that I've watched for this one probably was the most enjoyable and the one that felt most like The Simpsons. Like, still probably like a far cry from like the classic days, but there were parts of it. Like, I guess like it didn't, again, like there is less kind of like circumstantial sound or whatever, but there was more of it. But like, I think, lots of what we've discussed already, like how the episode shaped up and the heart and wackiness and all that kind of sort of being there, but not really, means it doesn't feel like a different show, but it does feel like a shitter version of the show.
No, you.
Fuck you. I was going to say the old classic, no one's really against type. There maybe pale imitations of themselves, but, it doesn't quite have the depth we want. But, again, the pieces are there. The family feels roughly right.
Yeah, I was concerned for another Marge-focused episode because, it does feel like Julie Kavner's just, oh, man, she needs a lozenge. And then making her do a bunch of accents as well, which was...
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
A thing.
Like I like it as when she's up there trying to do the sermon and she's going between the stereotypical accents. It's like the concept of trying to find a way to be exciting and doing something wacky at church. I get it's just uncomfortable, and it's supposed to be because she's bombing on stage, but it's also like
I kind of wish instead they should have just had like one of the montages where she's just trying to do like all the wacky stuff that Homer tried to do and nothing feels right.
Sure.
Like, you know, like I think as well when you have such a big sort of backlog of like historical crazy ideas, like put Marge in a spacesuit, you know, like, you know.
Yeah, actually, I like it. Yeah, a montage where
have
she
her
calls
jump
up
Springfield Gorge.
She calls up NASA and is all like, "So, I mean, you let my husband go to space. How about me?" Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and she tries it, and it's like, nah, she's still more boring or something, or even like having her like, I don't know, the other mothers, because she's always worried about their judgment, having them play a bit more of a part. But yeah, I think for me, I completely agree with Rose. Out of the other like episodes that I've watched in the last couple of seasons, it does kind of feel closer, but yeah, it's just not enough cause and effect or laugh out loud moments that I can actually be like, yep, this is The Simpsons from my childhood.
Yeah. I had a couple of other sort of things I realized about why it doesn't feel quite like it used to. Is like, and maybe this is just sort of a feeling, but like I feel like the tone of like the entire length of these new episodes just feels like a bit somber. Like it's almost like as like
a shadow of its former self.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just maybe like as the animation has brightened, the tone of the show has like dimmed,
darkened to compensate.
Yeah, it's really weird. There was also a couple other things, like hearing the word semen come out of Homer's mouth felt really wrong. That was weird.
What the hell?
It was one thing to see him do that dance, you know, that one.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah. And then I think it's weird to end the episode what is like the plot ends really abruptly with the just like, do you want to come home? Okay. And then that was the end of it. But then it just ends with like what it amounts to basically a sketch. It just feels really weird and off. Like it feels like, I don't know if you ever lasted the length of Scrubs, or I mean I didn't last the full length because I didn't watch the non-canon 9th season. But when it changed networks for the last season, like every episode would kind of end and then there would be like an almost kind of sketch thing during the credits, and it was just like, it felt weird, especially if there was like a kind of like emotional ending to the episode.
Totally.
Yeah, the sketch in the credits thing, it's been a long tradition now of The Simpsons in, the HD and Disney era now, and rarely does it ever pay off or feel necessary. And, yeah.
No.
But yes or no, would you watch this episode again?
Not going to seek it out, but if it's on, I'm going to do my laundry.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I wouldn't run to it, but like I wouldn't hate to it. Maybe I could fall asleep to it.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm in the same boat. It's like, I think it's an episode where it's like, if it's on, I'll like put the volume up a little and then do my laundry. You know what I mean? Whereas I think the last one that we watched, which was like Lisa being a Wiccan, which was the one that Rose and I did last episode. That's something where I'll like put the volume down and do my laundry. You know what I mean?
Well, actually, I was going to say, yeah, it just rose on the whole weird tone and feeling of the episode not feeling like Simpsons as well. This is another one that was just oddly silent. Like, so little ambience, so little music tracks and stuff that when the music does come in, like Ace of Spades, you're like, oh, fuck, okay, wake up.
Where's the texture?
Yeah.
We need the texture.
And then, yeah, when they go to Portland, the acoustic version of the Simpsons theme, like,
Yeah.
super odd choice. But, you know, we like to also try and fix episodes on this because, you know, got to justify watching these episodes somehow. So, B, we'll start with you. What would you like to change about this episode?
Because I have all my notes. Listen, I didn't get a Masters of Screenwriting to not do this shit. Okay. So first off, I would make sure that there's a clear issue that's presented. Like, Marge is boring, but it has to be completely incited by a particular person. To the writers of this Simpsons episode, I say, choose one. Is it Lisa? Is it everyone? Or is it Homer? Then pick that and make that crisis sort of beef or whatever with that person. Because I think having her be triggered by the Lisa thing, then trying to get everyone's attention in church, then having to prove herself to Homer, it's just too much in one episode. I honestly think if they kind of just tightened that up, it would have made a 10 times better episode.
Absolutely. How about you, Rose? What do you reckon?
I definitely agree with the tightening thing. Like, it felt like everything went too long. Like the conversation that Homer has with Paula at the end. Like, I was like, why are you still talking to each other? Like,
Yeah.
They had to say semen a few more times.
yeah.
Especially when the topic of the conversation is Homer's seed.
Yeah.
But I think it would be like, you know, sure, have one thought bubble joke, but not four. Like, yeah, too many things just kind of felt like they went on for too long. And also, I think repurposing a joke, like in the play, where there's the joke about like Marge fashioned almost a new bar of soap out of 4 like slivers of soap. I think that would be better suited to actually be a thing that Marge says. Like,
Yeah.
like kind of
Like
in
the
the same.
potato moment, you
That's
know?
exactly what I was
think
about
they're
to say.
I
Yeah,
just
like
think they're neat.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was going to bring this up because it's so pedantic, but
Yep.
this is something that Lisa did. In
Oh.
Burns for Carpenter Kraftwerk when the Germans
yeah.
fired Homer. And she goes, I just mashed all the soap slivers together. It's like, hang on, Lisa.
Wow.
You took your dorky moment and said it was Marge. We fucking know. We've done our homework.
They didn't think
Yeah,
we'd
she's
notice.
projecting.
We'd
That's
noticed.
so weird.
Pedantic nerds till we die. How about you, BT? What would you like to change for this episode?
I mean, I feel like we've run over it, but just to reiterate, just pick a lane for Homer, because I do actually kind of like the angle where it's exposed a degree of insecurity for him that this is completely in his head, and kind of just explore that a little bit more, and that makes his perception of once Marge is done with this, she'll just come home and that'll be the end of it, to that question at the end, would you like to come home? I like that as a concept, so that's really your focal point. Stick with that. That's good with me. I would have really quite enjoyed this episode if they'd landed that bit of heart.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
And on things going on too long, yeah, there was like a lot of those Portland sketches were, yeah, kind of funny to sort of modern hippie towns and whatever, but it was just sort of weird that they'd glossed over the fact that Marge had been away for a month. And
Yeah.
I was like, hey, where was, you know, Homer and the kids dealing without her? Where was like her having a new, whatever? Like, it's just a real untapped part of this episode that,
Yeah. Especially because, like, you know, previously when she went to, like, Rancho Relaxo or whatever, like,
Yeah.
or when
that
her
was
and
a
Lisa go to
whole-
clean the oil spill.
Or prison.
Yeah, there was,
Yeah,
like, a
yeah.
whole crisis about Homer being left alone with the kids. And then they're just like, oh, yeah, there's pizza boxes and Grandpa thinks that the cats are the children.
Yeah.
That's it.
Burps the toaster.
Yeah, for that one sketch that, wasn't even that funny. Totally not worth it.
Also, the greeting kind of suggested that they hadn't spoken the entire time.
Yeah.
Which, not even a phone call to be like, hey, how's it going?
Which, 90s probably maybe understandable, but they still had phones then, and they've got even more phones now.
Yeah, they've got bloody suicide alerts going on in their pocket now.
Yeah.
A lot of things just happened.
I thought they weren't in the 90s anymore.
No, they aren't. He was saying once upon a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I swear I remember a terrible iPhone episode.
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Yeah, no, well, for an episode that starts with all these kids on their phones all the time, they couldn't go, oh no, now we can't reference, mobile phones because that'll shoot us in the foot, even though they did when Paula's showing off her logging videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing. The Simpsons writers have just said, this is the same day for The Simpsons. It's just the year progresses, but they don't. And, it's now at a point now where they did an episode recently where Homer grew up as a teenager in the 90s and he was a big fan of Naughty by Nature.
Oh my God. What
Yeah.
the hell?
And he also invented grunge, but let's not get into that.
Let's not get into this hot time in the
Sadgasm?
Simpsons.
Yeah, that's right.
Sadgasm, yeah.
Margarine. I love that song.
So we are here. B, do you have any other notes about this episode before we rank it?
I mean, I do, but I'm not getting paid to script edit this episode, so I'm not going to do anything.
Fair enough. Rose, do you have anything from this episode you want to mention?
There was a couple. There's, I bet that Marge being felt up by Paula and feeling quite willing to be felt up by her is now going to be turned into some sort of cartoon porno.
Hell yeah.
No doubt.
And I thought the Burning Man reference to Burning Woman was a little misplaced because yesterday I literally recorded a podcast with my girlfriend about Burning Man because she's been there a couple of times. And one of the first stories that I ever heard out of her mouth was how she had gone to a lesbian orgy at Camp Beaverton. So there's plenty of lesbian stuff going on at Burning Man.
Yeah, that's also a funnier joke to say we met at Camp Beaverton.
Yeah.
So how'd you guys meet?
Well, it was an orgy.
BT, any other notes?
Of course I do. Let's see, there's a bit where the logging, what is it? What do we call this? Wood sports, whatever it is. The referee,
Timber sports.
whatever, has two whistles around his neck, but still uses the finger blow to whistle. I thought that was
I missed that.
Nice little bit.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. There's a blink and you miss it kind of moment. I like Marge's fantasy where she throws the trees to the pencils for orphans and then finishes like, wow, fantasies can be good. And it's like, depressing, but funny. My last note is, let me see, when Homer makes this decision to go talk to Marge in the middle of the competition and is pushing his way through a crowd that isn't there. I thought that got me.
Yeah, no, there's plenty of space. Yeah, my only other note was the announcer, the commentator guy, played by Kevin Michael Richardson.
It was a little confusing.
Yeah.
I didn't know what we were doing there.
Went over my head.
He's scared of squirrels. Now he loves squirrels, but he has a bad relationship with his son. It just felt like they let KMR fucking just riff and then they animated around it.
Maybe they did.
Yeah.
All right, well, it's time to rank this thing. On the Simpsons Index, we rank using our 6-point scale, which starts down the bottom at failure. Maybe if the episode was just meh, you give it participant. But for the positive rankings, you got okay bronze, good silver, excellent gold, but for the best of the very best, the episodes which the Simpsons could not exist without, you give cubic zirconia. I'm going to go first. Let me show you how it's done. Yeah, participant. Yeah. It's just so participant-y. I'm not going to willfully return to this. I'm going to forget it tomorrow, honestly. B, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm torn between bronze and participant because I think that I just always love more Marge episodes and I think I would want to watch it again just to criticize it and try and write a spec script that's better than what we actually saw.
So which one are you going? Participant or bronze?
Let's go bronze because we're going to work on it. We're going to workshop.
How about you, Rose?
I feel like based on the review I gave it and retroactive reviews I've given to other recent episodes on this podcast that I have to give it a bronze, but I don't want to.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I would like to go back and retroactively give some things fails.
As we often say, you just follow the heart guts.
Yeah, I'm going to go with participant.
All right, and Beach, please finish it off.
Yeah, look, if this had gotten a few more good laughs out of me, or if it had tied together that emotional core at the end, I would have bumped it to a bronze, but no, I'm going to sit on a participant. It's a participant with potential, and that means something, and I do appreciate they didn't fuck it up entirely.
Not entirely.
Again, the second they dropped in a gay character, it's like we're in danger zone, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't think they did anything egregious with that. So
Zap.
participant with just a little twinkle in its eye.
All right, well, Marge the Lumberjill gets a shiny participant. That sounds right, honestly.
Hey, based on that title, do you think if they ever do an all-female Jackass, it's going to be called Jill-Ass?
Yes.
Jill Bottom. A British version. These crazy Brits, they're up to no good.
Now I'm going to pour my tea in before I pour in my milk. Oh.
Oh, shit.
Unhinged.
You didn't let it
Putting
steep.
a tea bag in my veg.
Wow, we went into two different places, but still tea.
Oh, dear. All right, it's time we move on to the Teens Era episode, and we are going to go watch something called The Sweetest Apu. We will be back. And we are back, and we just watched our Teens Era episode. This was Season 13, Episode 19, The Sweetest Apu. First released in May of 2002, this was directed by Matthew Nastuk, written by, surprisingly, John Swartzwelder.
Really?
Yeah.
Back the fuck up.
Back the fuck up
surprising.
on a ladder, maybe?
Yes.
No. Yeah.
All the way home.
In this episode, Homer catches Apu cheating on Majula with the squishy girl, and it's about Apu's redemption. Hey, what'd we think?
Yeah, not bad. It actually remembered what it was doing, so that's always nice. And stuck to that core and was about Apu's redemption.
And I think as well, like I just mentioned it up top, obviously hasn't aged perfectly. It would have doubtfully aged perfectly, especially with the whole Apu stuff anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, like apart from all of that, I think it's solid. There were actually quite a few moments that I did laugh out loud and giggle, which I was like, oh my God, thank God. You know, I think especially when you kind of watch some Simpsons episodes that are kind of past that golden era, you're kind of like, oh, how's it going to be? But this was actually a fun rewatch because there were a few things that I mustn't have gotten when I watched them originally, like jokes that would have gone over my head and whatnot. So it was actually really fun and things that I completely forgot about. Yeah, I definitely remember Homer walking backwards, but that was also just like still just as funny watching it happen, you know?
I got a chuckle out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay, I think. It definitely like felt like an episode of The Simpsons. Like, it's that kind of way that a lot of them set up, which like I feel like maybe the last episode kind of tried to do but didn't nail, where like there's kind of a set piece that sets up the plot, but then it stuck to the plot quite well and it was all dedicated to like serving that purpose, regardless of how intelligent and emotionally mature that plot line may have been. I think it's actually quite a sort of irresponsible plot line, I think, to like make two people to hang on to a marriage that it looks like they shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
No, I mean, in The Simpsons commentaries, you do often hear them say that they run the show with the philosophy of love the one you're lit with, and...
Yeah. Oh,
It's a good song, but it's a bad philosophy.
Yeah, not perfect for every circumstance, and I don't know, I actually found this episode largely uncomfortable, and like aside from a few strong gags, I had a difficult time with this one.
Yeah, I think especially because they don't actually solve the problem head on. There's no moment where she's like, I felt betrayed because of this and this, and he's like, well, I felt rejected by you. Like, even though that sounds like very stupid, but you don't even have any kind of semblance of that like moment. He's just like, oh, I feel so bad that, you know, I was caught out in this lie and it's bad. but it's like, oh, well, what's the actual core of it? Like, I feel as well with a lot of these analyses that I'm doing, I'm just like therapizing the, the thing. I'm like, let's go deeper. What's the thing behind that?
Yeah, I get you though.
Motivation.
Yeah.
I get you though. Like, that is bad. Like, his motivation for change is I got caught, not I actually recognize that I did something wrong.
Yeah, it's not like he was overcome with guilt and confided in Homer or anything like that. It was like literally just Homer and Marge getting involved into other people's business.
Yeah, which is another thing where I was like, why do the Simpsons have to be involved? Like, I wish this episode could be brave enough to sort of take them out of the equation.
Yeah.
Especially because that's the way we sort of felt with the Apu Manjula wedding episode, is that that was a fine episode, but like the worst parts about it were the Simpsons' involvement.
Yeah.
No, I quite like the idea of having Apu need to confide in someone, and it just happens to be Homer, and having that bring them in. That works a lot better.
Yeah. Also, speaking of confiding in people, I did find that those times where Homer was suggesting to confide in Krusty was actually pretty funny.
That is quite funny of him just being like, how sad.
And like, taking the giant sip of water before, and then he's like, oh my God.
Yeah, real
Like-
dark joke, but great way to return to it as well. It's like, I keep telling you, he's alone off screen. He is a sad, troubled man.
Yeah, and I think, that's, I guess, what they're trying to do with those recent ones, because you know how we mentioned those kind of wayward scenes that don't go anywhere. But at least the joke here was strong enough to be like, yes, I want this cutaway,
Yeah.
like,
Oh, definitely. All right, let's hook into the questionnaire. BT, we'll start with you this time. For better or worse, what's a moment that stands out to you?
I'm going to throw to two because I can, because who's going to stop me? You, Elliot, who edits these things. First is
Maybe.
Marge's obsession with the going to the Golden Banana male strip club.
Yeah, love horny Marge.
We don't get it often,
Horny
but when we do, it's just delightful. And I don't know, it's a little bit against character, but maybe she's just never been and really wants an excuse to go. I don't know, but it was just oddly charming, and I got a good chuckle out of that one.
Well, you don't want to go to the Golden Banana alone,
No, because that's sad.
Yeah.
and you can't go with your husband.
Of course not. That's going to send weird signals. No, the other one is a line that I know is bad and I don't like it, and yet I'm still kind of chuckling at it. Is when Manjula is watching the videotape of the surveillance footage to catch Apu out, and he has the line of, "Ooh, that's good adultery," and I'm like, that is so dumb. Why am I laughing?
Yeah.
Conversely to that, I quite like the line that led into that with the "you're interrupting my faithfulness."
Yeah.
And that's what stuck it out to me.
Yeah. And, I mean, they lay it on very thick, but, I mean, there is that certain John Swartzwelderianness, that's not how you say it, to a lot of the jokes. And even though, the whole badminton game, and they set it up, like, they really signpost it. I hope there's no double entendres. But there is, like, a pretty
so
good
funny.
chain to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I didn't like, except for the part where Homer goes, "Anyone for penis?"
Yeah, that got a
not
laugh
good.
out of me.
I quite like the double entendres because it just also felt organic, and also I think as well something that the new episodes miss is the kind of like sometimes just like the simple humor is like the easiest answer, and I think like that was such a good example of that, like setting it up like, oh, I hope this doesn't happen, and it does happen,
Yeah.
and
I
then
think
it's fun and
there's
rewarding.
There's a lot to be said about a simple joke delivered with absolute conviction. Like, I think Family Guy especially gets away on a lot of that. It's like, this is a dumb line, but the person selling it to me is 100% committed to it.
Yeah, totally.
I think one thing that I liked about the double entendre as well is that, like, any excuse to lead into one of the old Simpsons collar pulls.
Yeah. Ooh.
Especially with that sentence. Oh.
Yeah. Such a good sound.
How about you, B? What stands out to you from this episode, for better or worse?
I really liked, and it was like something that I had, a joke I had completely forgotten, but I just think it's so funny when Homer's dreaming after backing out and Apu calls him a eunuch, and he like screams and then goes to the dictionary and looks it up and then is like, no. It's just, It's
His
just a
own-
very silly, funny Homer moment.
Subconscious brain is smarter than himself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, again, like, it's so hard not to compare even this to, like, what we watched before, because it's like, you don't get the Homer goofiness as much. And, like, I think that's something that, was really fun in this episode as well, is, like, even though they shouldn't have been getting involved and whatnot, there was a lot of funny moments, like his eye moving around and Marge being able to guess what he's saying just based on the eye movement. Like,
that's a sweet
very
moment
sweet.
from the Homer Marge marriage, that she knows his guilt and holding back secrets face so well that
Yeah.
You can tell
the eye
everything.
movements is like Braille or Morse code or something. Like,
Semaphore.
but I don't know if it was intentional, but like the eunuch joke is actually a bit layered, because when he's going through the dictionary, he goes unique, but eunuch is actually spelt with an E at the start.
Yeah.
So, I was wondering, if that was like, a bit of a layered joke there.
Funny, yeah.
But a word that I didn't know the meaning of until we watched Game of Thrones.
And you can listen to Elliot's thoughts on the entire series on the podcast Thrones of Game, available now. We have finally finished watching the entire series backwards. Back to you, Elliot.
Whoa.
Man,
That's a perfect plug.
just passing the plug ball around. Man. Like, how about you, Rose? What stands out to you from this episode, for better or worse?
There were some jokes that I liked. Like I thought there was a good sign gag of our beds are the Murphiest.
Murphiest? Sorry, I don't know if I get that.
A Murphy bed is like the one that you like pull out of the wall.
Oh, okay.
That's really
it was
shit
the sign
things.
in front of the Bachelor's Arms
Yeah.
apartment, yeah.
Yeah, I liked that. I thought it was actually like I was like, oh, this is dumb when Homer was riding Apu, but then that as the catalyst to get into the New Yorker gag thing, I was like, that's actually quite good. That's quite
Yeah.
clever.
I thought that was so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, just the pull out and the reveal, and then he's like, I actually bought it for Lenny's, like, photos. And you have these, like, really artistic New Yorker photos of Lenny. I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, this is where I was having the most fun in the episode, where, Apu was doing his list and stuff.
I thought the lawyer character was quite funny.
I wish he had some
Like-
better lines, but I did love everything he had.
Yeah, his energy was great, and then the like Johnny Carson dancing on the desk was
Yeah.
When will you pathetic humans learn that your feelings can get in the way of big cash settlements?
Yes, we
Yeah.
got that one when we in the case of lawyers versus justice. Oh, that was a good day.
All right, well, the thing that stood out to me from this episode, and easily the weakest part for me, maybe it's because I know nothing about them, but the whole Civil War reenactment thing was just such an easy cut in my mind. I didn't like any of this.
Didn't do a lot, no.
I didn't remember that part of the episode,
Neither.
but I remembered sort of the rest of it when it came up. But I did like one thing in there was the idea of there being a referee for a war. I think is quite funny. But it reminded me of a thing, though, which is just another recommendation that people should check out. Is I don't know if anyone's seen Dimitri Martin's show, Important Things with Dimitri Martin, but like because there was a similar joke here where they said the North, the South, and then the East.
Yeah.
There's a sketch in that show where it was like the Civil War with the North, South, East, and West, and then they like showed the kind of weapons that they had to have, which was like a kind of like 3-pronged gun. But then like there started to be factions, so there'd be like Southwest and like Northeast and whatnot, and it just gets like really involved into like how difficult it was to fight at like every different angle. It's worth checking out. That's a good show.
Yep. I will say, I think the line about the East soldiers was, especially because they're in the car park in a very confusing uniform. That got me.
I quite liked a few of the jokes in there. Like, I liked, because it was kind of wacky, right? Of like, we were supposed to do the reenactment over on that field, but there's an old man who won't move, and he's just like, like, I just like those little moments from The Simpsons. I also liked the fact that Disco Stew was on the Confederate side. I thought that
Didn't
was a
that
very
feel wrong?
interesting choice. Yeah. I was like,
I almost enjoyed the visual, but I thought the line was so lame. The South will boogie once again. It was,
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Like,
lazy.
I feel like they could have done better, because also it just didn't make sense or anything. But I also just liked Professor Fink saying that the webs were made of nylon. I don't know why. That was just like... that just
It's just
tickled
things
me,
that are
and then
funny
when
to
the
hear in
web
that
went
voice.
down-
Nylon.
Nylon.
Just had to throw in that Wiki Wild West parody.
Well,
Real quick.
that's it. It's just such a bizarre inclusion in this episode. And a reference to Wild Wild West, which is one of my favorite.
You forgot the Wikis.
Oh, of course. The full title. It was actually stylized as WWW. One of my favorite Kevin Smith stories where the producer of that film, Wild West, was John Peters, who was originally signed on to Superman Lives, the failed production Nicolas Cage Superman movie.
Oh.
What could have been? Oh my, what could have been?
Yeah, and there's an amazing documentary by John Schnepp, The Death of Superman Lives. And Kevin Smith basically says that, he tried to write this Superman story, and the producer kept going, where can we get a giant spider in here? I want a giant spider to fight Superman. And he's like, it's not really in the comics, dude, but sure. And he ended up forcing it into Wild West. Anyway.
Where can we get a giant spider? That's like a parody of like a dumb Hollywood exec.
Yeah. But just like
But
he had this
real.
one vision and it's all he wanted for some reason.
I mean, I can relate.
No, there's so many stories about John Peters. He's just this wild guy. Like, as a show of strength, he'd like punch the Chevy of his car to show his actors on his film that he was a serious guy, and like he had callous knuckles and he was a fighter, and he'd fight for you in the boardroom and shit like
Oh
this.
my God.
He was also briefly married to Pamela Anderson last year. Like,
Oh my God.
Last year.
yeah,
Last year's.
it's like married in January and annulled in February. Like, yeah.
Oh, annulled.
Oh.
Yeah, crazy fucking shit. Yeah. Wackiness. Was this a particularly wacky episode of The Simpsons?
There was some pretty wacky stuff.
Yeah, my
I
main
think,
note
yeah.
was the steam-powered super spider.
Yeah.
I do want to throw to a bit I liked, which is when Mo sees a Marge walk into the bar, his response is to put on a fancy hat.
That
Yeah.
was good. What followed that though, with like the
Yeah.
Windex thing in the drink? Like, was that supposed to be some sort of like low-grade date rape thing? It's just
I mean, it's Mo, so you can never tell, but I don't think so. But I don't know what they were trying to go for, so...
I took it as
was
a
it just
misunderstanding of cocktails joke sort of thing.
Yeah, like because it fell off. I was like, surely the Simpsons wouldn't do like a fucking date rape gag. Like that'd be, but that
Around this time, they kind of would.
But I would
missed
like to
it,
believe
so-
that it's just the poor mixology.
Yeah, I think also if, because that whole thing of like he has no women in the bar, like it could just be that thing of like, well, I've never had to make a cocktail before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gin and tonic? Do they mix?
Yeah. I thought it was pretty wacky as well. Like they have that part where Apu's going through the like reincarnation, and his last reincarnation is assistant to Lorne Michaels.
That's a funny gag.
I just thought that was like a funny little wacky moment. And of course, like you had the classic Homer at the end with the ladder jumping backwards, walking backwards. Like I think it was pretty wacky and fun in that way.
I think it was nice to see a good thought bubble gag, which like not the best one they've done, and it does feel like a sort of retread of like other thought bubble gags where Homer's got something dumb going on, but like it was still funny and better than anything in the last episode.
Yeah, and they still had two thought bubble gags in this one, but yeah, Homer's little fantasy of being on a glider shooting people.
You can run, but you can't glide. Come on, gotta remember the line.
Yeah, I don't know if I liked the original bit, but then the replies of like, because if they don't get back together, patoo, patoo, like, for some reason that I enjoyed because, yeah, for everyone watching us, what the fuck is he talking about? Yeah, the old people riding tanks as well after getting a speech by Tom Brokaw. Again, I just didn't get why this was here. Like,
Yeah.
Just because they just want to put in his really accurate impression.
so accurate as their Indian accents. I will say as well though, Apu and Manjul are both being voiced by white people, and then Bart and Lisa doing that line of did you notice all the actors were played by minorities? I didn't even notice. It's like,
Yeah.
felt
Yeah,
extra
times
weird
change.
because of that context. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Any other wacky moments?
Oh yeah, the inside the actors' studio.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that Bart and Lisa are watching. I thought that was pretty funny.
Was
Just like
that-
the McBain.
Yeah.
Was that James Lipton or?
Yep. That's our one
Not.
guest star for this episode, James
Oh,
Lipton.
nice. There's a clip somewhere of James with me like, there was another sketch where he gets shot and he goes, and the Simpsons shot me as well. What is going on? He's a champ of a dude with a very interesting backstory. He used to be a pimp in France.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Almost by accident, yeah. Do we have time for this segue? I don't know.
Maybe.
He does seem like like an okay dude who's pretty ready to laugh at himself, but he's so easy to like make fun of. Like there are countless good parodies of him, like Mr. Show, Conan.
Oh, that's
Because he's just so
right.
like sincere and earnest in everything he does, so it's kind of fun to make fun of, but he's just kind of a treasure.
Well, it's so
No.
great that they get him for this as well, and like imagining an Arnie type going, okay, let me get into character.
Yeah.
Now I'm
No,
gonna shoot
I'm
you.
bad.
Pleasure to eat your lead. But you know, an episode about a marriage on the rocks and cheating and infidelity. How was the heart?
I'm gonna go a bit controversial here. I think the heart was quite lacking for the subject matter.
Well, it's so controversial, I agree entirely.
Damn, I hope
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
a real kind of.
Yeah, I feel like there was no growth from Apu at all, really.
Nor
And,
the
like,
Simpson family.
Well, yeah, they didn't learn. Like, there wasn't a kind of thing of Homer shouldn't stick his nose where it doesn't belong, like, or you shouldn't cheat on your wife. It's like, well, you got to be prepared to do some pretty slightly embarrassing tasks if you cheat on your wife, you know?
Yeah. Now, I think that was my main complaint about this episode is, sure, he does the wacky list of groveling, but there's not nothing serious as well. Like, you needed a moment of them talking to each other, quite frankly. It's all just been fun, admittedly, but just wacky little listicles, and then everything's fine.
They
Yeah.
almost get
Does-
there at the end
Yeah, I
with
know.
them being like, I
So
don't think
close.
we're quite ready for this. Let's just not rush it. And like then you kind of hear them kissing and it's like, okay, it's organically getting there already, even though they said it wouldn't. But yeah.
That sort of ending is just for a bit of, hype is going to play into my how would I fix this?
Ooh,
Stay tuned.
bit of
Yeah.
sizzle for that question.
Bruce
Yeah.
is like full on porno, XXX. Let's go.
But yeah, I think there was, a degree of heart missing with why are the Simpsons interfering with, why does it matter to them so much? And
Yeah, like as well, something that stood out to me that I'm just remembering now is like Marge crying over the wedding tape of like Apu and Manjula, because it's like we haven't really seen that they're particularly close apart from the fact that they play badminton, which they've never done before.
Yeah.
And then she's crying over this VHS of theirs, and it's kind of like, okay,
I guess
calm
like
down.
the closest thing to a reason then maybe that they're like upset that they're like getting divorced is because they went to their wedding and now they feel ripped off.
Yeah.
we
Well, they
hosted
had their
that,
wedding
yeah.
in their backyard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they went through a lot for that, so yeah, to
Yeah.
be fair.
It's true.
But still a selfish reason.
But yeah, any emotion that you are having for Marge in that moment who's reliving this wedding is sucked out of it with that extraordinarily lame joke of Homer doing like that Italian song over the Indian.
Yeah, I have no idea why they were
So
doing
random. I was like, wow. It's a
Yeah.
bit baffling.
No,
that. Yeah, I literally just wrote Homer sings ... and then just a bunch of scribbles because I didn't know how to write.
it's a very hard word to spell. But ultimately, did this feel like an episode of The Simpsons? Are the characters behaving like themselves?
I mean, Simpsons getting involved in people's troubles, yeah, that's kind of it's still The Simpsons.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's usually Bart and Lisa meddling.
Yeah, true.
I think it was kind of nice that, like, it was Marge and Homer meddling. I kind of wish that, like, that had a bit more of an effect on their relationship. Like, maybe they feel closer together by meddling
Yeah,
with
that'd be
other
kinda funny.
people's. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like it did feel like a Simpsons episode. Like, I think the same thing happened last time I did this pod, where it's like Homer's goofiness for me is like what really makes it feel like a Simpsons episode, where he's like just lovable, dumb sort of thing instead
The golden
of just
retriever.
yeah, instead of just stupid, which I think was kind of what he was in the Lumberjill episode.
I kind of I agree and disagree a bit, because I felt like this was an episode where how dumb Homer was annoying.
Okay.
Like, he just seemed like utterly moronic this time, as
I
opposed to
just
being
think
like a
that,
bit of a
the
goof.
sweetness of it, though, is kind of the part where I find it believable, you know? Like, good intentions, but just dumb as hell.
Yeah, that's it. At least he wasn't malicious in it. I don't think you could accuse this episode of the whole jerk-ass Homer thing.
No, I didn't think it was jerk-ass. I thought it was just like,
Dumbass.
yeah, like properly dumb.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're saying Apu, like, is normally wouldn't commit infidelity, but it's an exploration of the character. Like, I don't know, it's almost like they didn't hit up enough of, like, how Apu generally felt about all this sort of stuff. And
Oh, definitely. And I think as well they could have saved time, again, in the slipping into the improvement section. But, like, just cutting that Civil War thing, if not getting rid of it, and focusing on what is it actually like for Apu to be like working 22 hours a day and having 8 octuplets, and then Mandula not, being physical with him or something. Like, you could show that in a way that's humorous and also very expositional, that would be a bit more understanding as to why he would, go out with Squishy Lady.
I like that you said 8 octuplets there. Like 64 children.
Wait, did I say
I'm
that?
saying double.
I thought I said B. I don't know.
But just to that, I do like this episode does start, all the jokes are focused on Apu being a workaholic father of 8, not, his religion or background. I think that's the way Apu jokes should have been done.
Yeah.
And especially during the controversy, just to come out and say, okay, we can't get rid of the character, but from now on, they will focus on him as a workaholic dad, not as, an ethnicity.
Definitely.
But yes or no, would you watch this episode again?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Like, again, probably wouldn't put it on, to be honest, but would be fine for someone else to put it on.
Yeah, it pops on,
Yeah, I think I feel the same as I did with last episode, where it's like, if it's on, I'd probably put the volume up a bit and, like, stop to watch the Homer backing away. That just tickles me. But, yeah, still do the laundry in the background,
Yeah, I'm going to go on Frinkiac and get a gif of that moment, but yeah.
I will watch it for the line of "that's good adultery," and then I'll just sit there and go, "Why do I like you? You're terrible."
All right, we've done a lot of sizzle for this question. What would you change? Rose, setting up the sizzle first. We'll start with you.
Okay. I think there should be, like, more explanation as to why Marge and Homer care, and then it probably be pointed out to them that this isn't really any of their business.
Yeah.
And, like, get more into, like, maybe, like, why, spend more time with why he was being unfaithful. And then what I think should happen is, after all of the, like, ridiculous rigmarole that he has to go through to get back together, when they're in bed together at the end, they should decide that, oh yeah, we're not suited for each other, and split up anyway.
Yeah.
And have the Simpsons be like, oh, right, yeah.
Another episode where the characters should divorce.
But that's growth,
Yeah.
Well,
definitely.
I mean, they showed growth and the potential for change when they got Apu married and then got his kids anyway. Yeah, why not continue that? How about you, B? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree with Rose. I think, again, if, their kind of ethos is love the one you're with, I think they could have ended it like that. But I think, yeah, having more time with why Marge and Homer are getting invested and maybe having, like, a B story about them trying to, understand why they're so invested in it, and some sort of thing that parallels them to their marriage, I think would have just helped it understandable more. And it also would just be like a cute moment to see Marge and Homer connect over something like that.
Sure.
And yeah, like I said before, if you kind of took out the Civil War stuff and did like montage of Apu just kind of at his wit's end to drive him to Squishy Lady, then it would just make more sense. But apart from that, like, it's still pretty good. And again, if you put it in context of, when was it, 2002
Yep.
or whatever, you can't really break the form that much. You know, you haven't gotten, like, Sopranos is in its infancy. You know, you can't just mess around. You need to keep things the way they are. And maybe a husband cheating on his wife is like a classic storyline. So, you know, I think it's pretty passable as well.
How about you, BT?
I mean, it's going to be an echo chamber for the most part. You can make it as simple as maybe Manjula says to Marge, look, I do still love him and I want to stay with him. You put up with Homer's crap all the time. How do you do it? And that's how Marge gets involved. Or, as we said before, maybe Apu is like just confides in Homer out of sheer desperation. And just kind of land the emotion a bit more towards the end. The wacky stuff is fun, but it still needs that emotional grounding. I think maybe this is part of the reason I was so surprised this was a Schwartzwelder, because he's usually got a pretty good grasp on things. And this just feels, the ending here, this is very, very rushed to conclusion. When there was clearly time to cut, you know, even the Civil War stuff, there's some parts I like there, but the whole, seniors riding tanks, I don't even know what I was supposed to do with that. There's that whole bit where Barney has a beer and then he says, I'm fine. And it's like, was the joke here that he's drinking again and he's fine? Like, I thought it was going to be, I had one beer and I'm fine, and then smash cut and he's riding a horse naked or something. But nope. So look, just tighten it up. Tighten up them dogs.
A weird pullback from like a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it's just, I don't even know how to explain it.
Don't. Just go with it. Tighten up those dogs.
Yeah. Well, the way I'd tighten up them dogs, again, look, it's so much of the echo chamber here. Yeah, cut the fucking Civil War bit at the start. I really think there is so much room for showing, you know, a couple being tired for the very different reasons, and because those reasons don't have their lives intertwined, it could be very easy for a miscommunication. Unfortunately, it gets into the area, is this good for a comedy show? Is this going to be funny?
I think that's the flip of it. I think we need to go to therapy, honey. It really, obviously, we're having trouble communicating. Not a big laugher. So.
Arrested Development managed to make marriage therapy good, but I guess they had Bob Odenkirk as the marriage counselor, so acting out scenes with Tobias.
You just follow your dreams. Oh, man. So good. All right. We are here. BT, do you have any final notes?
As always, I indeed do. Let's see. I like how Homer, when he was returning the keg, has just written on it, "This keg has dents." You know, it got me. A line that always makes me uncomfortable is when Apu's like, "Ooh, you've had less than 8 kids." It's like,
yeah.
I do really like the line delivery on when Apu's crying. It's like, "Oh, I'm such scum," and Homer's like, "Yes, you are scum." In just a very comforting tone of voice. It's good. A little bit of heart I do kind of like is, you know, Apu just outright says, you know, if you give me another chance, I'll do anything. And it's those kind of moments that just pull that shit together a little bit more. A quick Jordan's Anal Corner.
Jordan's Anal Corner?
Why
do I have to explain? No, never mind. Let's just move on. Yeah, sorry.
just keep moving. Keep the dogs tight.
No, I know. I don't need any context.
Why did Manjula, if the whole plan was to invite Apu and Manjula to dinner and not tell the other one they were coming, why did Manjula have the divorce papers with her? Is she just carrying them around? What the hell?
You gotta be prepared at all times.
That is anal.
Rose, do you have any other notes about this episode?
Although, honestly, that thing at the start with the like nacho cheese of the nachos and the donut looks great. would give it a try. You can get a thing from Butter in Sydney where it's like a fried chicken tender on top of a like big ass like hot cinnamon donut with like maple syrup poured all over it, and it's
Wow.
fucking great. It's
That's
so
got
good.
like a whole like American chicken and waffles vibe about
Yeah.
it. I can see
Yeah.
that working.
We
actually.
used to laugh at the Americans for doing that shit, and now we're doing it.
But yeah, I could go a big tray of donut chos. That sounds great.
yeah.
That's real stoner food.
Oh, absolutely. But I don't need to be stoned to enjoy stoner food.
It is your complete diet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But do you remember when they opened that stoner food shop up on King Street in Newtown? Never went there.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
DeMunchies.
Munchies.
Yeah,
I think it was open for like 4 months.
didn't
It
last
was
long.
longer than that. Someone tried to start a stand-up show there.
I think French tacos actually lasted longer than the Munchies. French tacos.
Give
would
it
you
the
believe?
old French taco.
Oh, they're still there, aren't they? Yeah.
No, they're actually gone now,
Oh, they
but
are?
they were there for a while.
Yeah.
For a while.
No, I liked the Munchies. They had the ravioli nachos. They were really good.
Whoa.
They didn't have Elliot's signature nachoroni cheese, and that shit is good. I can attest to this. Elliot makes excellent nachoroni cheese.
It's just nachos with a
Yum.
box of Kraft macaroni
No,
dumped on
but you
top.
make it with love, okay?
That's like there is another place again, this is food sidebar, but a place the place near Newtown Station, BT Calloway, where they do
yeah.
a croissant with mac and cheese and poached egg and bacon.
Holy shit.
So good. It's
I've been there,
the
but I have not had that.
perfect- Oh, it's the perfect hangover one.
Just checking if they're in my 5 kilometers. Fucking sweet.
Yeah.
I thought Homer, like, when he was buying the keg and then got a 6-pack until he'd tapped the keg, it was funny because it reminded me, I used to work in a bottle shop for a really long time, and there was this guy who was like an ICU nurse at like the hospital in Liverpool, and he would always come and buy like a really weirdly specific amount of beer. Like it'd be like 3 long necks and a stubby or 4 long necks and a stubby. And after so long of him doing that, we finally were like, dude, what's with the stubby? And he was like, oh, well, that's for the way home. That's for the drive home. I was like, oh, you sad, sad man. And then when he returned the keg covered in dents, I felt bad for laughing at the way that he'd spelled a poo because it looked like a poo. I love the forwardness of asking someone to do you, especially if it's spelled out with licorice rub.
Yeah, when I was going to school, it was, the tying the cherry stems and shit. Fucking doing that with red rope licorice. That's next level.
Yeah, I prefer when it was Patty and Selma just with a balled up bunch of cigarettes. Yeah. That's how you get me. And then the thing with Ganesh, oh boy.
Yeah,
very religiously and racially sensitive.
My one as well, where I was like, "Yoicks!" That was the big.
That was a real collar pull.
To be entirely fair, it is portrayed as like being bad.
Yeah,
And, they still did it.
yeah.
I don't know. There was something a bit more like when Homer did it at the wedding. It was just so doomed from the start. Whereas this was the earnest attempt by the Simpsons couple, having seen Homer do that routine and fail before. Yeah,
They sat down and thought about this and crafted a Ganesh costume.
yeah. Lacking effort on that. She spent too much time on the blanduri, apparently. Yeah, don't have too many other notes about this. Oh, Homer's line, which I love, just getting all excited and fangirl over seeing the squishy lady and go, oh, can I suggest a flavor?
Yeah.
Grape.
Oh, there was another delivery as well where I liked it when Marge finally guessed that Apu was cheating on Manjula, and he was like, "Oh my god, I know! Could you believe it?" That is just very fun.
Yeah,
A lot of good buttons.
No, definitely.
Couples interacting like that makes me laugh a lot. I saw a funny tweet today where it was like after the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory tour or whatever, it was just like a bunch of blank space and then like 2 people in a couple and one of them going, a lot of death on that tour.
A lot of children dead.
Yeah.
It's normal.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, I mean, Homer deliveries as well. And if you take that bottle down and then pass it around, like, it's so stupid.
Oh, and sorry, delivery just made me think of the new slushy delivery guy who was like, a challenge.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, I think it's time to rank this thing. B, you can go first this time.
I think, honestly, it's still a bronze for me. I know that's like controversial, putting a season 32 with a season 13. But I'm controversial, and I just think because it's just like I would react the same way to both of these episodes, I guess, just because the other one was like Marge focused, which is something I'm interested in, and this is silly Homer focused with wacky moments. But I still think I'm doing my laundry. BT, I've taken that phrase. I'm doing my laundry.
Yeah, go for it. We always say you just got to follow your heart, and sometimes the heart doesn't make sense, but it knows what it wants.
And sometimes an episode is just like that. That is like, yeah, I want to do housework.
Yeah.
This is weird.
Makes me feel productive for some reason.
All right. How about you, Rose? What do you reckon?
I think I'm going to go bronze 2 because kind of thinking about where this sits, like the beginning of the like Al Jean era, like there's a lot of what are probably silvers and golds in the like Mike Scully era and then like the first couple of seasons or whatever. So I reckon this has to fall below them.
Yeah, definitely. BT?
I was a little bit teetering on the Brilva border for a while, but what really cemented it for me was the fact that Apu's entire redemption is this wacky list and not anything that feels anyway real or character driven at all. It's just, some silliness. And while that's funny, it really it feels a bit hollow. So I'm going to go with a bronze.
And yeah, I'm going a participant on this one. I think in reflection, there are a lot of jokes that I really did like, but just the overall package, like, it left me very uncomfortable, and it just, I want to do so much changing to this. Like, this.
Yeah, and we could also, like, completely do without this kind of, I don't know, speck in Apu and Manjula's relationship if nothing actually comes from it as well. Like, it's kind of, it just makes him a bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, we can have him do that and do bad, but yeah, if you're going to make this kind of bolder move, you kind of need to back it up. And I think that's what this episode failed at, but I don't really consider it a failure. All right, well, that equals out as a Doll Bronze, the first episode from season 13 to be called that.
Ooh.
Well, that finally brings us to the classic episode of the evening. I am so excited to...
Had a lot of work.
Yeah. Long road to get here, and it's a long road to say the title of this episode, and difficult for me, having never studied Spanish for an extended amount of time.
Ooh, do you want me to have a go?
Yeah, go for it, please.
Okay. El Viaje Misterioso de Nuestro Jomer.
Buenos. God damn. Sorry to all our Spanish-speaking listeners.
Grazie.
Very Brad Pitt delivery there. Loved it. All right, so we're going to go watch that, and we will be back.
Anyone for penis?
And we are back, and we just watched a classic era episode. My God, what a classic this was. This was Season 8, Episode 9, El Viaje Misterioso de Nuestro Jomer, a.k.a., and as it appears on Disney+, The Mysterious Voyage of Homer. First released in January of 1997, this was directed by Jim Reardon, written by Ken Keeler, and yeah, talking Futurama before, this guy is such a big hitter across The Simpsons and Futurama. And in this episode, yeah, Guatemalan insanity peppers, Homer's search for a soulmate, space coyotes. What did we think?
I think that this episode is like one of the... like, I don't know if it's too much of a big claim to be like, this is one of the most defining moments in like kind of mainstream animation history in terms of the way that they sort of meld form and try the experimentation of this kind of like languid animation or different styles, which I think at the time you would have only seen it in like alternative movies and not really in that such a mainstream sort of platform. And like even watching it now, it's like it just obviously influenced things like the BoJack Horseman, like, underwater episode. I could see elements of that. So I just think it's amazing because of that. And also it just has a very clear through line of Marge is worried about Homer's drinking and he doesn't want to budge on that, but it's something necessary that he has to do in order to stay together with her, basically.
Normally, when I've done this before, because I've got the seasons 4 to 8 DVDs, I would watch the classic episode with commentary the night before, but my old computer, which has the DVD drive, is fucked, so I didn't get to do that this time. But trying to remember stuff about this, I was looking up, this guy called Chris Turner wrote this book called Planet Simpson, which apparently is quite well regarded, and he lists his top 5 episodes in it, and this is one of them.
Really?
And,
wow.
Yeah, which I guess like maybe might be just to sort of shout out the animation sort of side of it, I guess. But I wondered then if people could pick what the other 4 were.
Homer at Bat, Lisa the Beauty Queen, Last Exit to Springfield, and Treehouse of Horror 2.
You know, one of them.
Damn.
Oh, God, there's so many good ones, and especially, like, in our podcast, the unanimous cubic zirconia, the all-time rank, you know, we've got, like, 60 of them now, so, like, whittling that down, I don't know, just off the top of my head, something like, Rosebud, Homer's Enemy, what do you reckon, B?
You've now got 2 of them.
Oh.
I was going to say Marge the Lumberjill.
Yeah, the other 4 were Last Exit to Springfield, which apparently he said was the best. Rosebud, Marge vs. the Monorail, and Deep Space Homer.
Oh, really? Interesting.
I don't really like Deep Space Homer that much.
Oh, I love that episode.
Oh, even we were like, we gave it unanimous gold, if I remember correctly, and even we're like, we're kind of surprised. It was actually a lot slower paced than we remembered.
Oh, I think that's one of my favorites. I love that one.
But I mean, definitely an interesting take to have it in the top 5. But I think this episode is so jam-packed that with good stuff as well, that it's almost a shame that it doesn't have enough time to go deeper with it. But even then, like, this is such a satisfying watch. Like,
yes, to surmise it simply, this episode fucks.
Well, with the simple summation there, BT, we'll start with you. What stood out for better or worse from this episode for you?
How does one choose? Dear God. I mean, like every good episode, it is just so heavily laden to the beginning. I'm just going to throw to a line I just love, which is not the most obvious one, which is, so I says to Mabel, I says.
I wrote that down because that couldn't have possibly been repeated more when I was at school.
Right.
Like, people would say it as a way to, like, kind of, like, fob you off. And, like, say that to somebody else.
Excellent.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so I says to Mabe,
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll finish this later.
Exactly. Yeah, look, it's just adorable and charming, and I love it.
Saw a Gravity Falls meme the other day, which was, so Bart said to me, he said,
So good.
how about you, Rose? What stands out to you from this episode? Because I actually brought this episode to you remembering that you professed a love for it on one of the previous appearances. So what, why has this one stood out to you from the time, and what stands out to you from this episode?
Like, the whole, like, animation sequence is very cool. And also, like, it's just sick that they got Johnny Cash on the episode to voice the coyote.
So good.
Because apparently they had 2 people in mind, which were, like, him and Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan had turned them down before.
I think
I think for Homerpalooza in particular, which I also love. But he's got such a great voice for it, I think. But I also think it's really funny that they didn't get him to be the voice of the talking dog with a, "Hi, Homer, find your soulmate." That's really funny.
Such a good joke. Such a good follow-up. Just
yeah. But I think what's great about it is, like, apparently, like, George Meyer brought them this idea around season 3. And then Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein brought it back for this season of, like, the Homer goes on, like, a psychedelic trip, but, like, knowing that it couldn't be with drugs because of censorship or whatever. And I think that, like, Red Hot Chili Pepper thing kind of is a great way around that, because like I don't know how many kind of like chili challenges you've done before, but like it does feel like a drug. like probably 2 weeks ago, as part of a dumb thing that we were doing to try and have fun in lockdown, I ate like a full habanero pepper on an empty stomach.
Oh, bro, why?
What the hell?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you, Rose?
How long until you threw up?
I didn't. I've got like I think it's kind of like a genetic thing, is that people in my family have cast iron stomachs.
No
But
gag reflex.
maybe, I don't know. I've only ever sucked one dick. But yeah, I've done lots of. Like, I've done the world's hottest corn chip. I've done the world's hottest gummy bear, and I kind of understand Homer's wanting to salve that with beer, because beer is quite good for like calming chili.
Mm.
So I think that's like quite a clever way to get into it. And then like even just the image of the chili like on the thing when it's glowing and stuff is like it's really cool.
Just how it spreads over his tongue is like, ooh.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, the animation in this episode is second to none. And yeah, you're bringing up that it was originally pitched as a season 3 episode. Like animation wise, I think this is a story that could only be done during season 8. Or
When they had the budget and had the animation for it, because season 3 looks pretty choppy at points. You needed that extra, because it looks so good, all the surreal weirdness.
Well, even then, David Silverman actually himself did most of the animation for this sequence, because it's one that they didn't want to risk sending to Korea and have it come back and having to do the back and forth with it.
Yeah.
He knew that like producing this sequence in particular in-house was really important to maintaining the consistency of the show, and it fucking pays off.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
It still looks great all these years later.
Yeah.
Oh,
Definitely.
it is insane. It is as insane as eating a Guatemalan insanity pepper. And the things that they sneak in with, like, other druggy music references as well, with, the Jasper...
because I've seen this episode so many times, and I didn't really realize how many times I'd seen it until it started playing, and, like, the script, it's like a pre-roll in my head. Like, as soon as it starts playing.
You start making pre-notes. I got plenty of pre-notes.
Yeah, same. And then something I never noticed is, like, Otto telling Ralph, being like, nah, man, he knows what he's doing. Like, and I'm just like, oh my God, like that's a nice little thing that I never kind of picked up on.
Yeah.
And it's cool, like, how they've been able to do the trip while still being family friendly.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And doing it under the guise of the chili thing. And like, but B and BT, do you have much experience doing extremely hot chilies or anything like that?
No, I didn't really get any of the benefits of spice. Like, when people would be like, oh, I like eating hot stuff because you get like a rush afterwards. I didn't ever experience that until recently. And I grew up around spicy food and stuff. So I just found it annoying. So I never got into the extreme chili challenges or anything like that, because I'm just bah. Also, I've got the world's worst stomach. So
I was gonna say, I feel like you just shit yourself immediately.
Well, depending on the day, oat milk can make me shit myself. It's even the weakest thing.
Spicy,
I don't want to risk it with any Guatemalan chilies.
Whoa, the weakest thing.
If you want to rush, drugs.
Yeah, that's the best way to get it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I don't want to
it's gonna
shit
bore a hole
myself.
through your stomach. Yeah.
Yeah. Just get a spicy butthole.
Without incriminating myself too much, I thought there were particular animation moments which really captured acid very well. Like the liquidity of Homer's outlines and stuff. Because you see in film and TV over time, all the time, the exaggerated hallucinations you get on acid, and it's not really akin to the real thing. It's just, but and I think at times they captured that extraordinarily well. And, David Silverman, as a regular Burning Man attendee,
he's
had
a burner,
orgy in
dude.
Beaver County.
He really he probably did. That guy attends Burning Man, and he plays a tuba that's rigged up to this fire
God.
thing that like shoots fires as he's playing the tuba.
He's that guy.
Like
wow.
Mad Max.
Well,
Yeah, instead of a
with
bass
tuba.
on the back of a truck.
Yeah, it's a tuba. I mean, only brass will really survive the apocalypse. If we're being real. Coming from a saxophonist, I can tell you.
I think, like,
Sorry,
without
you
incriminating,
played saxophone?
Yes?
I've got one. B. Dingums Murphy. Sorry, Rose.
Oh, okay.
Oh, very good, very good.
I was
Very
going to say in the saxocalypse, but
Yes, did I start playing saxophone because Lisa played saxophone? Maybe.
Sorry, Rose.
Oh, you're right. One of the revelations of this lockdown, just because it's been something to do, is just realizing that I quite like taking mushrooms, and like we don't go nuts on them, but like there has been the occasional sort of moment where like things start to get a little colorful as you move, and I think the animation here kind of like captures that feeling of psychedelia as well.
Yeah, well, even just how, like, the ordinary people still start looking weird and you try and, like, focus in on them and, they all of a sudden start sounding like Peanuts teachers and...
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes, goo goo gajoob.
It was almost like a little Ramones reference in there too, with the Gabba Gabba Hey Hey or whatever.
Yeah.
that's what that was.
Yeah, Flanders, the fucking meltdown there. And, God, I love Barney with the burp, how it's just has this rippling effect. Oh,
Yeah.
just so good.
Chef finger kiss. Nah.
Just like as a little side note, Helen is really a bitch.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Isn't she just?
like, what the hell, lady? Come on.
It's underlined in my notes. Helen Lovejoy is such a bitch.
I know. Like, I can't. It never like stuck out to me so much. Like until this, like rewatching it now, and I was like, "Oh my God, Helen, stay in your lane."
Yeah. Oh, we're talking about the Jark episode before, and she gets some like underrated moments of bitchiness in that one too.
Yeah.
And I love this one. It's like, someone had to tell her, and I got here first.
Yeah.
I wonder if like the point of that though is like she would always have a get out of jail free card though of like, but I'm married to a a reverend.
The reverend.
I couldn't do
Yeah.
anything wrong.
Yeah.
Just to throw to another minor character I kind of never appreciated until this watch is Smithers in this, white cowboy outfit with the glowing rhinestones and this little lady, I wouldn't honk the honk if I couldn't tonk the tonk. And I'm like,
I
I
used
don't
to
know if you
love
see
that
here, but I just
outfit.
wrote Smithers outfit rules.
I know.
As someone who's kind of recently joined the kind of crew of like the Wild Wild Inner West of all the country musicians who
wiki.
wear cowboy hats standing outside the Duke, I was just like, I'd fucking love to turn up wearing that. That'd be sick.
as long as you can tonk the tonk, that's the important part.
Yeah, I'm all hat, no cattle, unfortunately.
I really hope someone has gone to the cosplay effort of making that
Oh,
jacket
yeah.
with the Christmas lights and the rope.
Yeah, with the
What is it? Hot Nashville Nights
Hot
or
Nashville
something?
nights, yeah.
Oh, so sex. Is this a wacky episode of The Simpsons? I mean, we've talked a lot about the drug trip, but
Oregano, what the hell?
I wrote that as well. I thought that was so funny. 8 spices. There must be double ups. Also, like Homer with the furniture salesman. That was pretty funny, pretending to be in
This
therapy.
is beyond my training as a furniture salesman.
Yeah, and just like a small thing as well of like the kissing fish, and then
Yes.
one fish eats the other, and then the smile is just so menacingly
Yeah.
hilarious.
you're next.
Yeah.
Homer's whole walking montage to the Truth at 17 song where, just the signs floating past the classic, Simpsons walking in the void, but there's signs like no trespassing, do not enter, employees must wash hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that it doesn't stay on point. It devolves very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do we
Yeah.
call it? The Boulevard of Convenient Signage or something like that? Yeah.
Sounds like us.
I like the giant light bulb, like getting it out like it's a normal one, but it's huge because it's a lighthouse.
Yeah, and I also made a note, like, I love how the first one's empty because it's like,
Yeah.
that is
'Cause they're
something
always-
so specific that rings true
Yeah.
of like just having an empty box.
Like, someone replace this, please.
I remember being a kid and loving that line that Lisa says is like, Bart's like, is that Dad? And she's like, either that or Batman's really let himself go.
They're just accepting this as fact. It's just
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for a cartoony episode as well, yeah, we briefly went over Johnny Cash before, but like the performance here is so fucking astounding. Like
It's so
great.
soothing.
Yes.
I want him to be my trip guide. Like that's the vibe.
yeah, see that like makes me curious as to why Bob Dylan was the first choice, because he doesn't have that soothing voice. Even his non-singing voice is equally not as soothing.
It would be way more eerie, I feel.
Sure,
Maybe
yeah.
that's the point. A little bit ethereal, otherworldliness, maybe. Because Cash is very grounded, and you know who he is.
I wondered if they would like kind of pay lip service to him a little bit with "Hello, I'm your spirit guide."
Dun, 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 down, 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 dun, dun, down. So is everyone here?
Walk the line, Homer.
Are you guys Johnny Cash fans at all, or?
Yeah, big fan.
I've only really listened to American 5, but that's such a good album.
Yeah.
At the old bar I used to work at, we used to only listen to country music sometimes. And my sister loves country music as well, so it's kind of something that I'll listen to if it's on, and I'll sing along to it maybe, but I'm not putting it on when I'm alone. That's the Mountain Goats.
Yeah, no, I love it. Like on June 13, as recently as that, I was at a music festival, the Country and Inner Western Festival, the inaugural one in Sydney Park, and the headline act was Tex Perkins playing a bunch of Johnny Cash covers.
Nice.
And
Sick.
It ruled.
Oh, that's so good. Well, I mean, speaking of Johnny Cash covers, like, because my dad's a huge country and western fan, me not so much, but I found like Johnny Cash Highwaymen were like the more tolerable things. But like when Johnny Cash's America records came out, like all the covers he did, oh my goodness, like I don't know how many times I've listened to his cover of The Mercy Seat and all that. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. I love that song.
Oh, it's astounding. Oh, so good. And even Rick Rubin spoke about it on a podcast with Malcolm Gladwell. Anyway, so off topic right now. Yeah, look, we kind of went over a lot of the more wackier moments earlier, but I mean, an episode that's so much about the heart. How did we feel like the heart played out?
I think quite well. What I liked about it is that like it felt quite real. It's like Marge has a legitimate reason to kind of be like tentative about him going to the Chili Festival because she doesn't want to be embarrassed by him. Yeah. And then he sort of like he does try and like do the right thing, but then he gets like horribly burnt by the chili, so like pours beer all over himself. It disappoints her, but like it does seemingly like try to go to a bit of effort to like mend the fence or whatever, and like because that is just like a you let me down thing, like because she still cares for him and they are still soulmates or whatever, she forgives him because she's worried that he's gone, and she's like kind of gotten over the little I'm annoyed at you thing. Like it felt like kind of like the real way that something like that might play out.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, for all the times we've gone through this, do Homer and Marge really belong together bit, to the point where some members of this very panel have recommended in previous episodes we reviewed that perhaps it should end. This one where it's just a simple statement of, oh, big deal, Coyote, my soulmate is Marge. Is it?
Yeah.
Just to have that is it is like enough to really start him on a journey, and it's beautiful.
And I think as well what is nice is that like Homer runs away because Marge doesn't instantly forgive him, but she does have that moment where she's like, no, of course, like I still love you. I'm allowed to kind of be angry at you and stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of just wished there was like a bit more of like, because in the end he didn't actually drink any beer because he avoided it at the last minute. So I kind of wish there was a bit more about like Marge
she found out, or
or like taking him for his word.
Yeah.
Or something. I think that would have just pushed it a bit over the edge, but that's, again, me being very picky. But yeah, I think it does kind of work with the heart, and like you understand why they're drawn together as well, which is quite nice.
Yeah, if you could add maybe one scene, maybe, Wiggum drops by to gloat and Homer isn't there and he's like, and maybe mentions the Peppers. I don't know, something.
Yeah, because I think, it's a little convenient how Marge is set in motion to find Homer, but she kind of brings it around enough in the end with the speech, but there is a bit missing. There is a scene missing.
To be entirely fair, her whole motivation is she just wakes up and he's not there, and it's just an interest in putting the argument behind them to make sure he's okay.
And maybe, again, it's like, the golden age of television has spoiled our minds that we want everyone to change at the end of an episode rather than completely reset. But, you kind of do want them to be able to find, because by the end of the episode, you're like, this could happen again next week. There hasn't been any change or growth in that area.
Yeah, but again, to that though, Homer did avoid beer. He did actually keep that promise. Yeah, he was going to when his mouth was on fire, but
Yeah, it was displayed as being very in the moment, like very understandable. And like you said, beer when your fucking mouth is on fire from a chili is...
Oh, yeah.
This is the best thing.
Oh, better than milk, because it's not milk.
Yeah.
But I think the heart as well of just him going through all the other people close in his life and going, oh, you're probably my soulmate. And then like, oh, probably not.
Yeah. More of an acquaintance. But chum.
The listing off of the different things that they are is quite funny.
It's very nice of Hibbert to say he's a contemporary. I don't know that Hibbert is actually a contemporary to a doctor, but sure.
Also, I think a great gag is Kearney is there drinking is quite funny.
Oh, yeah. But ultimately, did it feel like an episode of The Simpsons? These characters we know and love?
You know it did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Even with all the weird animation.
Yeah, see, that's it. Like, it still felt very grounded in Simpsons, even when they were going for moments where there were, IRL clouds in the background and stuff like that.
That's when, the part on the trip where things get too real.
When the mountain range turns into the back of your head, turns into the snake.
That was the
choking
wackiness I wanted to point out, the pro shop being at the very top of a pyramid.
Yeah. And that was just the pro shop.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever actually, until today, because it's it's funny that, it gets big or whatever. I don't think I've ever, properly thought, God, that'd be a pain in the ass to walk up there to go to the pro shop.
Yeah. Especially with golf. I mean, carts aside, you do a lot of walking playing that sport.
Yeah.
It's just mean.
But you're trying to ride up there on your cart.
Fucking jackass style, spray paint Narkill on the front of your golf cart.
And almost die.
Jackass forever in cinemas, not here. But
I'm so mad about that.
Why do I keep having to remind us we're in lockdown? But yes or no, would you watch this episode again?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Fuck yeah. And episodes that we want to watch again, we like to think about what playlist we'd put them in. What are some other Simpsons episodes that you think would pair nicely with this one?
Simpsons marital trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I
There's a
feel
lot of
like
those.
today we had a lot of different Simpsons marital trouble.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down. All three of the episodes have kind of dealt with marriage issues to a degree, and all three of them didn't have a ton of the kids.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, at this stage of the podcast where we're actually running out of episodes, these connections become more and more surprising because at the moment I'm essentially going, okay, we've got that one left.
I'm going to say the hallucination playlist. So say the Duff Gardens episode where Lisa drinks the water. Of course, the weed episode, the episode where Homer's working at the Quickie Mart and he's hallucinating because he's tired.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A hummingbird, when Apu thought he was a hummingbird for a certain amount of hours.
Yep. Cigarettes playlist.
Oh, I thought about that, because I think it's funny when like characters who don't smoke, like in anything, characters who don't smoke, but also like quite like Marge basically instantly being addicted. Why do you have one? She's like, maybe I will.
It kind of reminded me of the Hank Scorpio episode where she has a glass of red wine and then she like pours herself another glass and there's just like dramatic.
She's I heard doctor say you should drink a glass and a half, but I just can't drink that much.
Yeah, just Marge being shit at having vices.
Yeah.
Except going to the Golden Banana. She loves that.
Oh, yeah.
But no, especially in like past season 10, you know, when restriction meant that you couldn't have characters smoking, especially the Simpsons stopped, but like there's an early episode where Nelson's smoking on a soccer field, and then Lisa when she goes bad has the bad girls in the bathroom offer her a cigarette. She's like, I'll save it for later, I'll smoke it in class.
Imagine being 8 years old and smoking.
How old were you when you first had a diary?
I probably would have been 16 or 17. I didn't start smoking properly until I was about 2021, which is bad. You know it's bad by that point.
B?
Oh, I've never smoked a cigarette just to spite my dad.
Rebelling, not smoking. Wow, that worked out well for your lungs,
Yeah. Also, I'm asthmatic, so...
there we go.
Oh, that does not get in the way of it for a lot of people. I know so many asthmatic smokers.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how they do it.
Peach?
Geez, I never really took it up. The only time I ever really tried smoking was when I decided that if there's an apocalypse situation and someone's like handing around a last cigarette, or I'm about to be killed by firing squad, I don't want to cough on that cigarette, so I got to like acclimatize to it. So I smoked for a little bit to try and get used to that, but I never bought a pack. It was just, you know, if someone offered me one. And then I had a big night out with Sheridan, who shared her cigarettes quite generously. And in the morning, I just tasted like an ashtray. I'm like, fuck that, I'm never smoking that ever.
Oh, yes, a night out with Sheridan has made smokers of us all.
Oh, wild stuff, but no more cigarettes. Oh.
Yeah.
I understand that impulse, though, because there's like nothing more undignified than having a coughing fit.
Yeah. Aliens going to destroy the world in 20 minutes. Have a cigarette. Oh, yeah, sure.
That's why I'm actually really glad I kicked the habit now, because, like, I got hay fever at the moment. I got to make sure I pop a Telfast before I go out in public because, especially now is a bad time to have coughing or sneezing fits. So,
everyone just points at you and hisses.
like Apu's children as he got kicked out of the house.
Callbacks.
So, what would we like to change? BT, have you got any thoughts on that?
Again, there's no time for anything. Like I mentioned how maybe a little bit of, Marge finding out that Homer did keep his promise would help. But then I do like the sentimentality of her just putting the argument behind them because there's more at stake here because he's missing. And there's just no time to add anything. It's so densely packed and everything is really goddamn funny. So I do not think I have any notes in particulars.
B?
I agree as well. The only thing is like maybe, and I don't know, maybe I missed it, but it would have been nice to see Smithers wearing hot pants.
I mean, he might like
Who
short
wears
shorts.
shorts.
All right, that ending, like, to me, it's one of those like Simpsons, hey, everybody surfs up kind of endings, but it lands. I think it's
I love it. I always think about it.
Yeah, they have the moment of working together and then it just doesn't work out because there wasn't enough time. But who cares? Hot pants.
Yeah, I think it's so well executed. It's just like, this is dumb, but whatever, it's funny.
How about you, Rose? What would you like to change?
It's the same thing again, I guess. Like, it'd be nice to put in like a little like more resolution to the argument or whatever. Like, I didn't drink, I was trying, and the peppers were hard or whatever. But like, you know, there's already like they've sacrificed most of the opening credits, so there's not really much time. So, and like, I don't hate it that it doesn't have that. That just might add something a little bit more.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, to me it feels like it's lacking that thing to set Marge's search in motion, but like it's kind of just like a technicality kind of criticism rather than it doesn't stop me from enjoying this episode a lot. Like, All right, we are here. And Rose, do you have any other notes about this episode before we rank it?
I think I just largely just wrote down some quotes that I think are funny. Everything looks bad if you remember it. It was funny. One of my favorite dumb little lines probably ever in the show is They say he carved it himself
Yes.
from a bigger spoon.
Spoon.
Also, the legend goes, like, yeah, I love that delivery of that.
Yeah. I think the line read when he's burnt his tongue and says, "But I need it," is just really well done and really funny.
Yeah.
One thing I'd never noticed before, and I quickly paused it to see what it was, is when they're in their house and they go from the top level to the bottom level, there's like the little, separating the
Crawl
floors
space.
kind of thing. And there are a bunch of wires, and they're all tagged with names of little government organizations like CIA,
right.
NSA, ATF, and all that.
Yeah, there's another playlist.
Simpsons, pan through the house sort of things.
Yeah. Well, I'd never seen that before. And then just one-sided phone conversation is always funny. Like the whole "oh hello" or like the police. Oh, that's who you are. Is great. But I just love the "no, it's not that I'm afraid."
I don't like that or that.
Hang up now.
Yeah. That's me.
All right, B, do you have any other notes?
I thought Wiggum's line was pretty funny of like, heck, it's not my job to talk people out of killing themselves. Just that. It's exactly my humor.
And, don't quit your day job, Chief. Whatever that is.
Whatever that is. And I also had a note that like unlocked a memory when I saw Homer pouring the wax into his mouth, and I was like, I always wanted to do that because you remember when like you would put your fingertips in wax and then you'd be like, I have waxy fingers, and then you just like take them off. And I just remembered, and I was like, I still want to do that.
Well, also the spitting it out and then breaking it off looks really
Yeah,
fun.
it's such a
I read about the wax thing as well, is that like apparently the censors included a note being that like when Homer drinks the wax he should scream in pain, but they ignored that note and instead that's why Ralph is like, hey, you don't want to do that, do you?
Yeah, because they were afraid that like impressionable,
people like me.
Yeah, and me.
that wouldn't think
Impressionable podcasters.
We're now doing the wax mouth challenge. All right.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing in lockdown now.
Just to feel something. And yeah, so the whole premise was to have Ralph, one of the stupider characters in the show, being like, hey, you shouldn't do that, was actually kind of a like dig at the censors. I really like that as a move.
Which I also liked as well as like a part of Ralph's character, because it feels like he's done that before and he's trying to warn Homer not to do it. Like that's how I saw it.
Learn from my mistakes, Homer.
Exactly.
Definitely. And BT, do you have any other notes?
So I do like when Homer's on the phone to Lenny after having the Marge has cut the bit in the paper out, and he's like, the big annual what? And then hangs up and goes, if it was big and annual, they would have put it in the paper. It's just a good little throwback, and I really liked it. His line of, oh, it's a lazy dog dangling afternoon.
Yeah.
I hate just his whole, we're missing the cook-off. What's going on? And we're missing it.
This is
him dancing
Homer
around.
acting like a child that's, really endearing.
The classic screenshot of the cowboy boots and his eyes looking in like the separate directions.
Yeah.
Yep. His line when Marge is looking at all the, craft work, he's like, less artsy, more fartsy. I just think it's very, it's just clever and funny.
I'd never picked up on that until
Yeah,
this
me either.
watch.
Well, I mean, bringing it back to the Easter show, it really reminds me of like one year in particular, I went with my mum and eldest brother, who is petrified of roller coasters or any ride that moves. So I spent the Easter show having to fucking look at livestock, and I'm like, we're missing it. We're missing the fucking thing that flips me around and is really dangerous.
But look at this fruit. It's pretty big.
He really just thought they were neat.
This is because I kicked you, isn't it? And just that tortoise nodding at him just gets me every time.
The little slight smile.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this.
Yeah, a bit I really love is when he first meets Marge at the top of the pyramid in the hallucination. It's the back of her head, and then he runs around her, and it's all the back of her head. And then when he meets her again at the house, she's turned away from him. I just think that's a very good little surreal moment becoming a reality kind of thing. So it's very cool.
Oh, I was just going to add to that, just like with him chasing her around and it's still the back of her head is fucking nightmare fuel.
It's beautiful. All right. Yes.
Beautiful
and then when the train,
nightmares.
Yeah. When the train's
Sweet
coming from...
nightmares.
Sorry.
a
Sorry.
ghost train. Still a little time to get out of the way. Now less. Now none.
Yeah.
There was another good bit with that where he does wake up, and when Kent Brockman's complaining about him,
He blows the whistle, yeah.
but the whistle he's using is like one of those wooden train whistles that you get. It's
Yeah.
not like a referee whistle. It's a good tie-in to that.
It all makes
Oh, actually,
sense.
I meant to say this because I remember this from the commentary and I found it on Wikipedia. Homer waking up on the golf course is a reference to something that actually happened. A friend of the producers blacked out and woke up on a golf course in another state. He had to buy a map from 7-Eleven to find out where he was.
Oh
He
my
discovered
God.
that not only was he in a different town, he was also in a different state. He walked several miles to return to a friend's house, which was the last place he remembered being the night before.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
A fantastic line, which is, I'm just your memory, Homer. I can't give you any new information.
Yeah. I feel like as a D&D game master, you've had to do that line several times as a character.
Like, I'll remind you, but you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
When he's in the dark, giggling to himself about how he's going to make the ship crash, and he's got the running spiders sound effect. I don't know what else to call this, when you just kind of run up and down the fretboard of a vion.
Is that a Hitchcock
Oh, yeah,
thing?
yeah.
It's a movie thing. I don't know if it's specifically to Hitchcock. I don't know what else to call it other than running spiders.
Plucking it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The pizzicato.
Because that's always the music they pick for when they've got spiders on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ting, 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 ting,
Yep.
ting.
Then their conclusion that, we might have our differences, but they're only skin deep and our sames go down to the bone. It's like, I can feel things in my robotic chest.
Yeah.
And finally, in your face, Space Coyote!
Oh, Space Coyote. Yeah, all right. That covers most of my notes. Just had a couple of quick ones. Yeah, the animation of the ice cream melting before it hits his tongue is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
With the sparks as well flying.
Oh, look at these records. Jim Neighbors, Glenn Campbell, the Doodletown Pipers. And look at her records. They suck.
Doodletown.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Real things, all of them, I believe.
Oh, yeah. The Doodletown
better be.
Pipers. That was one that I had to check as, that's a real reference because, Jim Neighbors and Glenn Campbell, shit that'd appear in my dad's music collection, but he didn't have any Doodletown Pipers, curiously. I think Sea Captain is, a last-minute MVP of this episode. It's just, he has some great line deliveries. Head starboard. Port.
Port?
Aye, port.
The precious cargo. The hot pants? Aye, the hot pants. The entire ship is only carrying hot pants.
Yeah, Springfield's
precious
demand for
cargo.
them.
Oh, yeah, through the roof.
All right, it's time to rank this thing. Rose, please kick it off.
I'm feeling a light 8 on this one. Has anyone watched The Needle Drop? I don't know. I thought I'd throw that reference in there.
Yeah.
Fantano?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a cubic zirconia.
Hey.
It's pretty hard to beat.
I'm going cubic as well. Like I said, there's, I think, some technical things there are to fix, but that does not diminish my enjoyment of this episode. This is, maybe not top 5, but top 5 of season 8, surely. BT?
I mean, 55 years later, it's still getting us laughing. That's a cubic zirconia.
And B, please finish it off.
Controversial. I was going to say gold, but I think that because of the kind of animation risks that they kind of took and kind of, focusing on such a emotional core, I think as well, it kind of puts it into the cubic zirconia for me.
Wow, that's a clean sweep. On the, We're all saying it's an essential episode. That must mean it gets the Simpsons Index Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Field of Excellence. It will...
Or whatever's inside this box.
the box. It will be the 6th episode from season 8 to get that honor. It will be joining Homer's enemy, the Old Man and the Lisa. That's the Mr. Burns' Little Lisa Animal Slurry episode. Brother from Another Series. That's Sideshow Bob with Brother Cecil and
So good.
Hurricane Nettie, and also You Only Move Twice, the Hank Scorpio episode.
So good.
That's a fucking playlist right there, I reckon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, y'all, for joining us for the Simpsons Index tonight. That was amazing.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you
was
so
really
much for
fun.
having me. It's always a pleasure.
And this is the time of the show where we plug stuff. B, would you like to kick it off? Do you have stuff to plug?
Yeah, I guess I have stuff to plug. I don't have any shows, but I do stream on Twitch every Tuesday, Sunday, Friday, and during lockdown, heck, we're throwing in Saturdays. So twitch.tv/Queen _B, that's spelled KWEEN_BEA. And my Instagram and Twitter are those handles as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Been enjoying your Stardew Valley streams, and I saw you were doing some like quiz shows and stuff lately.
Yeah, so Rosie was on one of the quiz shows. Every Friday we're doing a kind of silly podcast / quiz show called Rat Cage, where it's kind of we just ask ridiculous questions, but it's just an excuse for us to be funny with some of our comedian friends. So that's every Friday on that Twitch channel as well.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah,
wonderful.
it was very fun. Would recommend.
And Rose, what are you up to?
Not a great deal because of lockdown. So I don't have any shows to plug, but I mentioned before that I recorded a podcast yesterday with my girlfriend about Burning Man because I have a podcast coming out at some point, which is not entirely far removed from the concept of this podcast. It's just a little deals in many things instead of one thing that you love, because it's called I'm Gushing, and basically people just come on to talk about stuff that they love and are obsessed by.
Nice.
And I've recorded about 4 of them now, so I think that will come out within the next month or so. And if you want, you can follow I'm Gushing Pod on Instagram and Twitter. I haven't put anything up yet. There's not even a picture for it, but do that in anticipation of it all coming out. But otherwise, I'm Rose Alice Piper on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll post about it there as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, really looking forward to that. Any sizzle
Sounds
for some of the guests that have been on?
So far, the guests have been me. Thank you. B just followed the account.
I'm supporting my friend.
I appreciate it.
I was wondering what that background noise of ding was.
Yeah.
So far they've been me, Beck Charlwood, and my girlfriend Jen Mackey, and recording one with a former guest of this podcast, Jamie Kirk, tomorrow night.
Oh, cool. And BT, if the good people want to hear more of us, where can they do that?
Well, have they heard of this wonderful new website called Patreon? Because they can go to patreon.com/SideQuestStudios where they can find the blanket for all our work. That's right. The Simpsons Index, Thrones of Game, and our Pulp Fury radio series, our fiction podcast anthology, where you can listen to pulp genre fiction being read out by amazing actors with some incredible sound effects and work that I'm incredibly proud of. I think that's all the things.
And speaking of which, Pulp Fury Radio on our episode Working Class Wizards features a cameo from none other than Rose Alice Piper.
Yes.
Woohoo.
Doing the ad for Cyclops Choice brand eye drops.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, really good time. Yeah, check out patreon.com/SideQuestStudios. Other than that, that's the end of the Simpsons Index. Thank you all very much for listening, and thank you, B.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose.
Thank you kindly.
And BT, as always, thank you.
Ahoy.
And I've been your host, Elliot Jay O'Neill. That's all the mustard in the house.
Thank you for listening to the Simpsons Index podcast, which is also an online spreadsheet available at thesimpsonsindex.com. You can chat to us online at facebook.com/thesimpsonsindex or at Simpsons Index on Twitter or Instagram. Now, there's no bonus scenes for this episode, so we'll catch you next week.